ArrowXL, we slay all the way.
So welcome everybody to ArrowXL's latest podcast. Today the focus is on peak and delivering a successful peak for customers and clients. I've got two special guests with me today. So I've got Dave Buckingham, who's Head of Operations.
I am.
And I've got Kezia Davies, who's a Commercial Account Manager and focuses on the Very Group. So thanks for joining us today, guys. Today we're just going to have a bit of a chat and a bit of a delve into your world around peak season and what it means to both of you and the wider business. So yeah, let's get cracking, eh? Okay, so peak. So for me in IT, it certainly differs from other periods of time during the year. Heightened awareness more so than anything. Obviously we're going to a change freeze. And the heightened awareness is obviously around making sure that the systems are available so you guys can go and do your day-to-day job, or certainly the teams below you. So, you know, that's where our focus really lies. So where does the focus lie within? Let's start with you first, Dave. So from an operational perspective, peak season, when do you start preparing?
It's funny actually, so we actually started preparing in August for this peak. So we actually have two peaks in a year. So we've got what we call the Easter peak, which is really summer. Yeah. And obviously right now, hence the jumpers, we're talking about our Christmas peak, Black Friday. Yeah. So we started preparing in August, heavily focused around recruitment, resourcing, etc. So yeah, August is when we started this year.
No decorations up in August though, Dave?
No decorations. Decorations are December, Mark,
okay.
Or should be.
Kezia, when did you put your decorations up?
I put them up on the 1st of November.
Okay.
You'll get your money's worth out of the Christmas decorations, haven't you?
I suppose you have. But I think it goes to show the amount of preparation that goes in from an operational perspective. 3 months out, 3.5 months out, nearly 4 months out from Black Friday, you're thinking about how to execute a successful peak. Yeah. And from a commercial perspective, Kez?
Me personally, I'm always thinking about Christmas. But no, I think for Very Group, for example, because it's such a big client and there's lots of intricate things that go on with Very in terms of the way the systems talk to that, I actually start thinking about it in June. Yeah. So whilst everyone's enjoying their summer holidays on the beach, I'm thinking about Christmas. And we start to have meetings around about July, August time, and we just put our heads together to start thinking about what potential risks could there be. I hate saying the word risk, but it is, isn't it? What potential risk is there for peak? We have a brief discussion on forecast. I mean, to be honest, at that time, you're not really going to know much about the forecast and all that good stuff, but you know what products are out there, you know what potentially is going to go on. So yeah, we talk about that. We talk about anything in terms of communication, the way the systems are working. So for example, this year, we went live with the new Sugar CRM system, didn't we, the order management system. And that was something that, although it was very similar to our old system, it was still brand new and something our clients had to learn as well. So for that, we had to get all the training rolled out and ready, and we did that quite quickly. And it's working great. But again, it's just one of those things where it's a potential risk. It's something that's new that we didn't do last year. So we've got to think about that. So yeah, I just think about last year, this year. But going back to your question, commercial, I would say August. We start to talk about it in August. We start to talk about Christmas. What's it going to look like? What do we need to think about? What do we need to plan for? And start putting pen to paper. Okay.
So plans start in August and decorations up 1st of November.
Definitely.
Okay, right, well done. Looking back over the years, because both of you worked for ArrowXL, as myself, for quite a number of years now. What have we done well in the past with peak, and what have we done not so well?
It's always easier, certainly operations, to look at what we've not done well. Yeah. We tend probably not celebrate success as much as we should. I think that's just an Arrow thing, if I'm honest. Yeah. What we've not done well in previous years, which we haven't made that mistake in more recent years, is saying no. We haven't said no when we should have said no. Okay. What we try and do now is we try and lock down volume in about October time. Now, we always use the phrase, we've locked it down. We've never really locked it down. Clients will come back and ask us for more volume. Some clients will come under forecast, etc. But we've got to give the operation in particular a steer on, you need X vehicles, you need Y resource. The toughest Christmas peak we've ever had is where we've not made that decision early enough, and we've waited, and then the volumes come higher because we've not put caps on, etc. We've not had the relevant resource, and we've struggled through. I mean, I'm talking years ago, you probably remember, I think you probably helped me back then. Yeah. what we do really well on the flip side now is, Kez in particular, her team and the rest of the commercial team will go to the clients very, very early, get those forecasts, albeit they always change, they always do, nothing's really locked down. But we do that very, very well now. We will always say yes when we can to extra volume, but we're now not afraid to say no if it's going to bend what we've planned out of shape. Because we've committed to clients that we're going to deliver them a great peak, and just because another client wants to give us more volume, we shouldn't just say yes. We've got to make sure we manage
protect that client base.
100%.
We've set those expectations, haven't we? And be clear with those.
Yeah. I think in previous Christmases we've had a number of challenges as well around the Brexit and processes that have changed, etc.
Yeah.
I think this year forecasting has probably been the hardest I've ever seen. Some clients' volumes increased by 100%, some clients has decreased by 50%. Just the other day we had one of our clients within the space of an hour and a half moved orders up and down significantly in the forecast because nobody really knows what's going on. Just because of the economic climate that we're in, I guess.
The economic climate is tough, isn't it? And trading's tough, and I think retailers are struggling, I think, to understand how it's going to look for Christmas. But I think, when it's so volatile in terms of the forecasting, how does that affect you guys? When you talk about planning, what kind of things have you got to plan?
So we always build a contingency in. So when we go through the forecast, we will always over-egg the resource that we need, just because, although we like to flatten the volume, we talk about this all the time internally, we like to keep a plan nice and flat. Clients have spikes, a particular range goes on sale, a particular client goes on sale, a big one maybe goes earlier, everybody else follows suit. So we always have to have a contingency. One thing we do really, really well now, we've got a great relationship with suppliers and service partners, etc. We communicate to them heavily from the first version of the forecast, and we're sometimes on version 27 by the time we go live, but from the version 1 of that forecast, we're upfront with people. This is what we're going to need, but you need to have more people inducted, you need to have more vehicles available, and we go out to market very, very quickly on that. And we, as I say, our suppliers are very, very flexible, because we've got so many of them, we can leverage significant numbers of other businesses that can help us, rather than having all of our eggs in our own basket, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think, again, from an IT perspective, my side of the fence, we've got to make sure that we've got the right number of equipment for you. We've got to make sure that our suppliers and our partners are geared up for the right levels of operational support during that time. We've got a change freeze starting this Friday. It's for a couple of weeks over Black Friday, so we don't cause any undue stress by putting changes in that might cause you some undue stress. So that's where the heightened awareness, I think, comes in from our perspective. I think from a client perspective, so Kez, I think in terms of what's the ask from the clients? So,
well, I suppose we asked them to give us a forecast, and I know it's like you said, there's lots of challenges where it is going to change, and it's so hard to say this is what we think it's going to look like. I mean, we'll ask them for insights in terms of, do you know what certain products you're going to put on sale? I mean, for example, big client, and their product mixes, it can go from beds, mattresses, flat pack, TVs. And they do something different every year. I mean, they went live on like the 30th of October this year. It was very early, and then they'll,
it's kind of like coordinated with your decorations.
It did exactly. So Christmas came early for me. So yeah, and I think it was just about getting that insight in terms of, well, what products are you going to be putting on sale? What are your expectations of that? And I think it's important that we get, if it's certain products that's heavier than usual or bigger than usual, it's always good to then feed that into the planning, isn't it? Because then we can be more efficient and successful in that. So we just ask them for as much information as possible. And also set key deadlines as well. So, for example, like out of area deliveries, we need to have those orders pre-advice wise. We need to have the physical orders in our network sooner rather than later. So we've got sort of a deadline dates for each of those. And we have to set those to clients early on, say, this is the expectation. You need to get these in by this date so we can then deliver to the customer in time for Christmas.
Okay. So forecast, absolutely critical from the planning. So it's all about the planning and the preparation for peak. That goes in with, obviously, ourselves from IT, supporting the operational and commercial teams. There's other teams involved, such as finance, there's service centre teams, client services. It's a whole team effort, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we started our peak calls probably back end of September, I think, the first iterations. They all start with planning, really. They give us a forecast, the planning team will work out what we need to do, what are we actually looking at delivering. And the one thing we do very well, every single department is represented on that peak call. So even departments that you wouldn't necessarily assume are involved in peak planning. I always use finance as well. Actually, everybody in finance knows exactly what we're doing, because sometimes we have to spend money up front that we've not that we may not have budgeted for to bring the relevant resource in. Yeah. The volume might be coming in different weeks to what we budgeted for. So there's no department within our business that doesn't know where we're heading as a business. And ultimately, 90% of our staff at this time will be operators, but every other department plays their part. To your point, a change freeze in IT so that we don't upset the systems. Kez's team will be talking to us on a much more regular basis through peak talents if any clients have changed. Finance will hands off a little bit in terms of meetings that we may have. So every department certainly plays a part, and we do that very, very well here.
Yeah, it's a communication, isn't it? That's the key thing here. It's about communicating between all of us, communicating to our clients. I think that's key during peak. Just keep us in the loop, keep us updated. If anything changes, let us know. So ultimately we can deliver a successful Christmas.
Good stuff. And expectations, we know the expectation of ourselves as a senior level. Obviously we manage teams below us in terms of, there's warehouse teams, there's drivers mates, there's teams in IT, customer services, client services. What's the ask of those wider teams during peak? We've just done some road shows again, as you know. And the one key message that we give to our drivers, our mates, our operators is just be patient and shout up if you see any waste, anything that's not following the happy path, just shout up. It might be that we can fix it there and then. It might be something that we know about and we're going to have to live with, but don't sit on a problem. And all we ask them to do is just remember that we've got 3-4 weeks of being very, very busy. Our volume will double from where it was 8 weeks ago. That's a huge ask of any operation. And we just ask them just to bear in mind that tempers get frayed, people get a little bit more stressed and under the cosh this time of year. But ultimately, we need their support we need their support to help us make their job easier. Yeah. So that's our ask of them. And I think the way I see it is obviously volume increases. There's more throughput going through our warehouses and out on the road. But invariably, our KPIs are the same. We've got to deliver what we deliver throughout the year. So, from a KPI perspective, what are the key metrics that we look at?
So this time of year, and it's going to sound like a cliche, it is service. Customers, my boss always says to me, our clients pay for 52 weeks of the year good service. Just because we're busy, they shouldn't ultimately care. And for retailers, obviously, it's the golden quarter. Yeah. What they're selling is, it's more emotive this time of year. It's a sofa bed for the in-laws to sleep on. It's the dining table for Christmas Day, and it's Christmas presents for the kids. So emotions are heightened this time of year, and our clients, they expect great comms from us, but ultimately they expect us to deliver what we delivered for the other 48 weeks of the year. Yeah. It should be that simple.
Yeah. Okay. Any top tips out there, for anybody watching this out in the world around peak?
Plenty of biscuits, cup of teas, coffees on the go.
Every business is different, isn't it? But start early. Yeah. Because Kez is talking about Christmas in June. The earlier you can prepare for it. We need to give our operational colleagues and our colleagues that are going to do the delivering of whatever part of the project it is as much time to go and execute those plans as possible. Yeah. Therefore, we need to get those plans in place as early as possible. Yeah. It's pointless taking 11 weeks to plan and 1 week to execute. We need to take 1 week to plan and 11 weeks to execute. Yeah. So as early as possible.
And looking to execute those plans, there's going to be some things that we can't control. So we're obviously going through a cold spell at the moment. We had a bit of snow for the first time. Dreaded white stuff hit the ground the other day. So it's how do we operate? How do we make sure that the snow in around the country, probably more so the guys up in Scotland, because you do get it worse, guys, but certainly down in England, everything seems to, certainly from a personal perspective, grind to a halt on the roads. My wife, certainly, she's going to hate me for this, but she can't drive in the snow. It touches the ground. It's like, what am I going to do with the kids? But 7.5 ton vehicles. Yeah. We've got trunking vehicles up and down the breadth of the country. How do we manage that?
Well, from a trunking point of view, we have relatively set routes that we have to drive. So most of it's motorway miles, let's be honest, relatively safe. But the key bit is we don't ask any of our drivers to ever put themselves, the public or a vehicle at risk. It's that simple. And if that means, unfortunately, we have to fail a collection, we will always do that. Safety comes first, obviously paramount, as is legal compliance. Ultimately, if the deliveries are unsafe to collect, the collections are unsafe to collect, or deliveries unsafe, we can't put people at risk. But we have great contingencies, so as soon as that snow melts, any orders that we were not able to deliver due to snow, due to ice, etc., we've got contingencies, so we can up the number of routes we can do for the following day. Deliveries that haven't been successfully delivered on a Tuesday can go out on a Wednesday. We've got more routes from our trusted service partners that we can go and get should there be a really, really bad instance of snow. I mean, you remember the Beast from the East years ago. Yeah. I mean, that was 3 days worth of deliveries that had to roll and roll over. Hopefully we'll not experience anything like that. And I think you're right about Scotland. Ultimately, the Scots deal with the snow better than we do down
Absolutely.
here. But ultimately, we can't control it, but we have good contingencies for when we need to do redeliveries.
I think that's the important thing as well, isn't it? I think when I was talking about, that we plan so early in advance, and you can't always plan for the forecast and stuff like that, but I think that you learn year on year, don't you, the things that become challenges. And it's good, like I said, I don't like using the word risk, but it's good to have a risk log of things that that potentially could happen. They're out of our control, the weather, we know that, but I think if we put it down on the list, it sets those, again, it's like, it just manages the expectations of, everyone knows it gets to winter. We are going to have crazy floods, we've had floods, wind, we've had snow, we've had ice, we've had it all. So it's one of them of just, that goes on the list then, doesn't it? That if that happens, like you said, it links in, it then activates those contingency plans.
Yeah.
So we have those things in place should that happen. And we obviously then communicate that out to our clients as well to say, if this happens, we'll communicate it with you. We'll let you know what the plan is. And then both sides can then manage it from the customer, because ultimately it's about delivering to the customer, isn't it?
Well, I think the key bit on is our customer comms is good as well. If somebody's snowed in, they're not expecting you to deliver, but we make sure that customer knows we're not going to deliver, etc. We've just had a new legal compliance team in as well, and they've just written out some safe winter driving tips as well, so that's got out to our network as well. Self-explanatory, don't put yourself at risk, etc. But yeah.
I think our communications are really good for customers as well now. I mean, I've worked with Arrow for like 8 years, and I was one of the first people to work on the contact centre when they went in-house into Arrow. Very proud moment there. So everything, so much has changed since then, because I spent a lot of time in customer services, and it used to all be phone calls. So we used to have to phone call the customers, and it's come such a long way now that actually in this day and age, we rely on digital so much, don't we? People would prefer to just at a touch of a button speak to someone or get that information there, and then so the communications that we have isn't just phone calls. We've got text messages, we have emails. You've got ArrowXL, the tracking link. So when the delivery goes out on the day, the customers will get that tracking link. So they can actually click on it. If anything like me, I'm just fresh. So they can see exactly what drop number they're at. They've got the map in front of them. So I just think it's really good, especially if you're on the go. So they can see, there's issues and whereabouts they are, and they'll know, there's snow in that area. I know they're going to struggle. It's not, it's really good to be really in touch with the customers in terms of that communication. And like you said, that is key when it comes to delivering.
Absolutely, and that's the added pressure I think on the IT team this year, is that we have moved to a more digital way of communicating with our clients. So the onus is on us to make sure that's available 100% of the time. That's certainly the aim, and hopefully we deliver that during peak. All right, thanks both. Is there any top tips really for our clients? What can they do to help us during this period?
From an operational point of view, it all goes back to communication on forecasting, actual volumes. If extras are required, if there's more volume that have gone through the till than they thought, tell your relevant client manager earlier. There's always a finite amount of resources. We haven't got vehicles that are parked up. However, where we can, we will always support. So just react early, let us know. Talk to your client management team. The earlier we know, the more chance I've got of getting that additional volume. And equally, the other ask is if you're having a poor day on sales, also let us know. Yeah. We can give that capacity to somebody else. What we really don't want to be doing is running half-empty vehicles one day and then going over capacity the next. So yeah, it's communication for us.
Okay, not the same, Kez, yeah?
I mean, the top tip for me, and it's something that I do with Varian, I know that the commercial managers do with our other clients as well, is that we just check in with them in terms of their customer journey. So if you think about it, way in advance, we'll just do a run of what it would be like for the customer to place an order with the business and go through those communications up until the point of being delivery. So if I take Very, for example, so we were looking at the customer journey, so they go onto the app or they go onto the website, they place an order. What does that look like at the point of checkout? Is that what we expect to see for the customer? And again, that's obviously from an IT point of view. Is there anything that's not working that should be working? And then we flow through with the communications then from Arrow, receiving in the actual items, what does the system show us in terms of that order as well, up until the point of delivery, and then all the communications, like I said, AskAxel is the best one for that in terms of tracking. And then it's just about, is that what we expected it to look like? Yes. Or is there anything that we can do to tweak it? And I understand that obviously some things might be bigger IT changes than we like to think they are. They're not as easy as they sometimes look like. But it's just about acknowledging that and saying, okay, it didn't work how we wanted to, or actually we've got a little bit of a glitch there, but we know about it. So we can do something now when it gets closer to peak. Because ultimately, it's like you said, peak is just delivering a high amount of volume in a short period of time. And as you said, it's an emotive thing. We're delivering Christmas presents, we're delivering essential items like dining tables so the family can sit down together. So yeah, it's just follow through that customer journey and just make sure that you're happy with how that's going to be. And then I'd also say, just check in with your customer services teams as well. So our customer services team, again, they've been preparing probably since about August as well. And as I said before, we've got a new Sugar CRM system of our order management. So even though we're comfortable with that, it's still quite new to us. So it's just making sure that everyone knows how the system works, everyone's comfortable with the system, the knowledge and understanding of how things are going to work is there. So they do refreshers and they'll just send out little communications in terms of just to let you know, this is what's going to happen next. It feeds into the communication with the operations. And we do it with client services too. So we also, a good thing to do is just check in on your points of contact. So just make sure that you know who you're contacting from an Arrow point of view or vice versa, so we know who to contact from a client point of view. And then customer services, who do they then contact? And we've got loads of different ways, phone call, emails. We've got client services team on hand there to help with any incoming queries. They're great. So you've got all these different points of contact. Just make sure that everything is aligned. So you've got a point of contact, you've got your forecast locked and loaded. You've got your communication should anything change with that forecast to let us know. And then if there's anything customer journey wise or something that's gone wrong, you've got those points of contacts to be able to speak to us, because that's what we need. We just need to keep close, stay in touch, and hopefully have a successful peak.
So we deliver a fantastic peak. That's great. That's the focus. That's what everybody's geared up to do. Post-peak, what does our attention turn to then?
First thing is returns, to be honest. Customer cancellations, etc. Lots, with it being a highly emotive period, lots of win purchases that clients need that stock back so they can resell it. So we're very, very busy on deliveries pre-Christmas. Post-Christmas, clients need their stock back to resell. So that's our initial focus. Then we will jump straight into peak reviews. So the one thing that we do very, very well, the basis every year of the peak plan is what went well, what didn't go well last year. There's always slight changes to each year, whether it's last year was bad weather, whether one of our clients gave us significantly more volume than we thought. There's always something that's not gone quite to plan. So as a business, we will sit down and we'll go through, as I say, what went well, what didn't go well. That'll happen in January. We actually create a really, really good in-depth report that obviously you guys have seen that then forms the basis of next year's plan. So that's where we'll start off immediately after peak. And then, to be honest, attention then start turning to the next peak, which is our summer peak. That summer peak is harder for us to prepare for because it's based on sunshine. This peak's based on Black Friday. Black Friday is a date in the sand. We know when it's going to happen. The sunshine peak, as we call it, we don't know when. So the learnings from our Christmas peak aren't necessarily useful for the summer peak. It's completely different environments. But nevertheless, we'll do that early January so that we've got that ready for August when we starting again.
Thanks, Dave. So, operationally and, business-wide, that's what you look to after peak. From a commercial perspective, Kez, is there anything different?
It's very similar, to be honest. So after Christmas, the main thing is to have that session with the client and just digest what's happened over Christmas, what went well, what didn't go so well, what's the learnings that we can take forward into the next year. And that's really key, isn't it? Because, we know that things go wrong, but that's okay because we can learn from those, and then we've got that contingency plan in place for next time round. So and it's a really open conversation with the clients as well. It's, it's a very casual, let's just be open and honest about some of the things that went well, what didn't go well. And that really then gives us what we need then for the next peak, which soon comes around fast. But when we're looking at sort of the spring, summer, that is our focus from that point. So it's just about maintaining those KPIs, that service, keeping it going, ready then for our next summer. Like you said, you've got to wait for the weather to come. So everyone's watching the weather, not for the snow this time, but hopefully for a bit of sunshine, so we can start to see that garden furniture and all those barbecues going out. And that's what we do. And then at that point, it's kind of a little bit reactive, I guess, isn't it? We can plan for what we can plan for, but it is very much just sun's out, let's go. So that's what we do with the clients. We digest what's happened from Christmas, and then we start to look ahead at summer. What products are going to be out there? Is there anything new again? And obviously with summer, they're bigger items, aren't they? Because they're like the sheds and the big outdoor items. So we've got to keep that in mind as well, that in terms of forecasting the plans, it's going to be bigger cubes on the vehicles rather than smaller flat packs.
I think the other bit as well, so all of the commercial team will have their own peak meetings, post-peak review meetings. Sometimes, hopefully we'll deliver a fantastic peak as we plan to do. Sometimes clients have big peaks, poor peaks. Not necessarily from a sales point of view, but some of our clients got their own warehouses. Some clients 3PL it out to other parties. Sometimes they've had bad peaks, and we can help them. Not necessarily make a change, but ultimately we can. We have plenty of space in our warehouses to support. And it might be that on the back of those review meetings, they say, actually, if we gave you our stock, would we have had a better peak? Yeah. So those conversations will happen as well.
And we certainly have capacity, I believe. Post peak, we've got sites: Enfield, Worcester, Wigan, Airdrie, for those who don't know. So that'll be conversations will take place to try and fill us up with that stock that needs to be sold for when summer comes, for example.
100%, and ultimately, if it's in our warehouses, half the journey's already done. Yeah. If it's in our warehouses, they don't have to worry about their 3PL or their teams picking, packing, loading. It's with us already. Therefore, we can inject it into our network later cut-offs, etc. And ultimately, that always delivers a better service level than stock warehoused externally. It's just the nature of our expertise, I guess.
I think that pretty much wraps it up for our podcast. I'll say that again. I think that pretty much wraps it up for our podcast today on Peak. So again, thanks for your time, Dave. Thanks, Kezia. It's always interesting to understand what happens outside of IT. We can get boxed in sometimes, but it's good to know the amount of dedication and hard work that goes into delivering Peak is not just done in November. This work starts, Kez, all the way throughout the year. But predominantly more so August time is when it really ramps up. So I know how hard the guys work, and the guys who are around Kez and Dave, the wider teams work in making sure that we deliver for our customer and clients, the best that we can at ArrowXL, day in, day out. Peak is higher volumes in a short period of time, but we want to deliver a great performance like we do throughout the rest of the year, and I think that's what we're geared up to do this peak. So let's hope that peak season 2024 is a successful one, and the next podcast we can do a bit of a reflection on how well we've delivered, and into 25 what is going to be going on at ArrowXL. So
ArrowXL, we slay all the way.
Nice one,
sorry, I had to get that in there.
Brilliant. All right, so thanks all, have a great peak, and have a good Christmas and New Year.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Jingle bells, come on, Dave.
Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way.
He's off. Sorry. I'll probably have to go back with that. Bring it up, man. Join the podcast. Mark, what are you doing?
Mark, turn your kettle off.
Turn your kettle off. We're in full flow.
We're live on the telly.
We're live on the telly, lad. Live on Big Brother.
Honestly.
Right, where's me tea? Shut the door, lad.
Yeah, shut the door.
God, Benny. How rude.